Presentations and reports 4.1. I believe Brett Smith's going to tell us about the long-range planning.
Well, believe it or not, it's going to be that time again where we're going to have to think about a bond issue. Several years ago, I forget my. Several years ago, really beginning 2006, we had a long-range planning committee. That's where that LRPC stands for, that reviewed the needs of the district. It was done through surveys and interviews with the public and staff and teachers to try to see exactly what we needed. We did this again in 2010 for that bond issue, and then in 2012 it was reviewed again by the same folks, or maybe a few of them different. And so we're going to go through with some of the things that they recommended, what we've actually completed up to now that's based on their recommendations, plus a few other things, what we've got left to do, and what the future plan is. Current status are basically the projects that we have completed. The LRPC recommended, except I think I got my things in the wrong order. There it is. Progress has been made. We've had technology upgrades and continued improvements. This is something, once we've started, we can't stop. You know, we've got to be able to keep up with what we've got. Technology just changes daily. You know, it's obsolete the day that comes out. And we've done very well in the district by keeping up with that. It's just a growing movement all the time. Promethean boards, we have, because of the bond issues, we've got Promethean boards in every classroom. That is phenomenal. From what I understand, the teachers just absolutely love it. Servers are very costly, because with technology you need larger capacity to store softwares and those kinds of things. So those go into the cost of doing business. Laptops, as you know, are one-on-ones, and that needs to be expanded on. Right now we're the 8th grade all the way through high school, and that's been a wonderful program as far as I know, and it needs to continue, and that's an ongoing expense. Computer refresh, initially that's exactly what we did. We bought computers, we refreshed them, and then the older ones kind of went down a grade, and then we brought new ones in to come on. So that refresh is continuing all the time, and curriculum enhancements and different programs that also cost money. Safety and security, that's a big deal. I'm going to back up just a little bit, because safety and security, as you can see, over the years we've done cameras. And we put those in all the schools, and through the years we've enhanced those, and we've added those and so forth. And then entrances, the second bullet I've got on there. We didn't think too much about that until things happened around the country, like the Sandy Hook deal. So those cause us to refocus a little bit and maybe build a little bit bigger and better. So those kinds of things that have been brought on even before or even after we've already started this conversation about bond issues. Lobby guards. Our very first one was at East Middle School. And since then, we've put them in several different schools. Well, East Middle Schools needs to be upgraded. That entrance that we have over there, although it was the first one, was the safest one we had, actually is not as safe as what it should be now. Things change. So we need to be able to do those things and put lobby guards in all of our schools. Electromagnetic locks, that's something we put in our new entrances. That allows the person sitting at the front desk to lock somebody out or let somebody in. Ballistic glass is also a part of the entrances. Shelter improvements, that's another thing that happened throughout the years. We always thought we had really good shelters, and I still believe we have very good shelters to keep our kids safe. But because of FEMA recommendations and their specifications that did not exist, say, when Lincoln was built, those specifications now say, you need to do these things just a little bit differently. So we've got to add those into the mix and enhance what we've got to make safer. I don't think you can make things too safe. Fire sprinkler systems and controls, of course, that needs to be done in every building. We're pretty close, but still some other areas need to be added to that. And, of course, asbestos abatement. Some other progress. We talked about improvements in design. We put in all kinds of flooring in all of our schools. You know, we went from tile, asbestos tile, to regular tile, to carpet, and going back to tile. You know, it kind of depends on how the cleaning and the longevity of things. We went with the carpet for a while. We found out that's not near as good as the tile is. It's cleaner. It's easier to take care of. ADA improvements, elevators, ramps, automatic doors. Those things since 1994 or 74, we've been trying to get to that level all this time, and we're getting very, very close to get ADA compliant. We have to continue that process. Office layouts, so we can understand that equity among buildings. This is the big part of it. Not every elementary was the same. They didn't have all their programs within one area. They were spread out through the schools. So as we remodel them, we take those offices and lay them out in such a way that all the supporting services are close at hand, where they can be utilized there in the office space. Restrooms being upgraded, roofs, of course, they do go bad, so you're going to have to keep those things up. HVAC systems usually go right with it. Efficiency upgrades saves us money in the long run with up to standard efficiency HVAC systems. We had a food lab remodel. We had to do that over at West. We did some of that at East, and of course we built a new one at the high school. And then of course the old administration building, trying to remodel that one is going very well. Another thing that we've got to do is transportation. Although it's a separate bond issue, we usually pass those along with the other. We've got to have new buses. We made a commitment to redo our buses or rotate those in about every 10 years. So we don't have any buses older than 10 years. Sometimes we sneak over the line a little bit, but that's been our goal, and it's worked very well. Got to keep up with handicap buses and security cameras for those buses. They've paid for themselves on several occasions. Other needs, playground needs, orchestra, band instruments, storm drainage. I threw that in there because of Lincoln. And I say that because it's expensive. It's a requirement of the city. They have to adhere to those rules and regulations. So anytime we do anything with a parking lot or drainage from a roof, we've got to address the storm drainage, and it's costly. Textbooks, instructional materials, supplies, replacing those old portable buildings. We're finally going to get rid of those after this next year. We're finally going to be gone with it. Trout gets to use the last ones, and then we're going to sell them or tear them down or something. Athletic program needs, of course, we replaced the turf. We actually did that with building fund money. So some of these things that we're talking about, bond issues, if we do them with building fund money, then we just take that off the list of bond issues. But these are still things that the long-range planning committee wanted to do. Athletic training room, we completed that. It needs to be enhanced, but at least there is one at the high school. Robson Fieldhouse, HVAC for the basketball dressing rooms. We did that this last summer, and we put in new bleachers. We've still got some other bleachers that we need to address in the old field house. So that'll be coming up soon enough. And then we've got a skid loader for the maintenance department, and they need some more items as well. Now then, what do we have left to do? Well, all those things that we talked about. Right now we're at Woodlands, and we're remodeling that, and it's in progress. And Lincoln, as you know, is also in progress with a new roof and HVAC system. This summer, Trout's going to start. And all these Trout and Liberty, they're going to get main entrance relocations to the front of the building. Woodlands is going to get the same thing right now as it's in progress. That's going to address safety and security, ADA improvements, and a classroom addition at Trout. We've still got technology, as I mentioned to begin with. It's ongoing, it's continual, so that has to be involved in these bond issues. And the Sullivan's concession stand and the new restrooms, that will be it should be coming online and bidding probably in January, so we can get it completed before this next school year. The LRPC they made a recommendation in 2010. We reviewed them again. The projects are still viable. Natural disasters and some of those things that I talked about make us shift our focus sometimes. So we have to do things with the building fund as well to supplement those, but they also dictate what we may do in future bond issues, and we'll be talking about some of those things too. And then we just need to continue and grow in these areas. to make sure that we grow with school design, because it changes all the time. There are recommendations. This is a list from the Long Range Planning Committee that is still in priority, because they took all of those things that they studied and they listed it in priority in what they thought was needed. District initiatives, of course, we've got technology, security, ADA issues, our textbooks. We had some parking lot and playground maintenance, those things that we did for the district-wide improvements. We'll continue with the transportation. As I mentioned, the press box, barn improvements and fencing. We've still got to do some things like that out at the Boag farm. Maintenance department equipment still is a need. Additional bays and coverings for transportation and maintenance. That is so we can keep our buses and our equipment lasting longer. So it just makes sense to have them undercover if we can. Solon Stadium ticket booth and fencing. That's something we've talked about, got some estimates, but that needs to move forward at some point. Our ticket booths are held together by the paint we put on 2 years ago, so we're going to have to do something with those soon. Robson Fieldhouse, practice goals, child nutrition improvements, and a dance studio. Some of these things came from a wish list that the different sites put on. We told them at the time, put anything and everything. If you don't ask for it, you don't get it. You know, so they put those things on there, and if they get it, great. If they don't, it's for a good reason. This is some more Roosevelt. They needed some additional water fountains, restrooms in the first grade. Those may be things that we can do in-house without a bond issue. Liberty needs a walking track. The high school, Performing Arts Center. You know, we've talked about that on several occasions. At some point, we'll probably need to visit that again. It's an expensive project. I think it's needed for the district, but that'll be yet to be seen. Flooring in the Anderson building. It's got carpet in the hallways that we've got to get rid of. West Middle School is in the same situation. The auditorium seating falls apart by the hundreds each year. So we need to do something with that one. And they thought they needed some more cafeteria eating space. They've got several kids over there. And East Middle School, their lockers, they're very, very old, they're very narrow, and they need a lot of work, so they thought they would like to have some new lockers. Bathroom reconfiguration, they're strange in how they were organized when we did the first remodel several years ago. So they'd like to change those up. Instead of a boy here and a girl here, then maybe a boy and a girl on this side and a boy and a girl on this side instead of walking across the school to get to one or the other. Electrical upgrades, most of that I think is for computers. We'll probably need that all over the district. And they also need some flooring. So we need to continue. We're not done yet, and probably will never be done. We've always got to continue to improve. We need to talk at some time about an indoor practice facility. That's been a need for years and years by all sports, girls, boys included. It's not a necessity, but it's great to keep our sporting activities alive during the wintertime as well as during the summertime. Weight training facility. We've got a small one. It's got some nice weights in it. It doesn't measure up to what a lot of the other big schools our size do. It's something that we need to talk about. We don't necessarily need to talk about it right now, but at some point it needs to be on a list. Robson Fieldhouse, scoreboard, ceilings, lighting, some HVAC improvements, a wood playing court. The wood playing court is on its last leg. It can't be sanded anymore. Nails are starting to show through. Sound system and audio-visual enhancements. I've talked to Coach Walker about all this, and he's on board with getting some of this accomplished. That building was built in '74, opened in '75, and hasn't had a heck of a lot to it when you're regarding these things. We did some enhancements. That front lobby was a huge improvement. Solon Stadium perimeter fencing, the ticket booths, as I mentioned, and the high school fine arts, the safety corridor to the main building. That is the only building really that, other than Robson Fieldhouse, that we haven't connected to the high school. So those kids have to walk out into the elements, although there is a small awning there that they can stay out of the direct rain. There's really not any safety for a lot of traffic going back and forth. So we need to enclose that in. And flooring and millwork improvements all over the district. So what we need to talk about is a timeline. Project planning. We're starting it right now. We're giving it, putting it in front of you. We've talked about it. I've probably got $47 million worth of estimated projects that we can throw out there in front of you. And so, I mean, this is something that could last for a long time, and we need to talk about it soon. Estimates and preliminary design, January to June. It takes a while to get all this stuff nailed down. Preliminary designs, any feedback we need. It may not take all this time, but we've got a little bit of that to spare if we need to, because we're starting early. And then you're going to have to make a resolution in July or August, depending on when you want to have the bond issue. And then the bond election in September or October, whatever timeline you choose. So what are the projects and recommendations? All those things that I told you and more. The committee, the community, the teachers, the staff, the architect, the construction manager, we're all going to get involved in those projects and what the recommendations might be. What's your bond limit and your length of your time for your sales? Well, we need to talk if we're going to have a 3-year bond issue or we're going to have a 5-year. We are in the last stage of this last bond issue. We're going to sell the last sale is in February. We'll get the money about May or June, and that's going to fund Liberty and Trout. So after that, we're going to have to pass another bond issue to keep our millage level where it is. So we have a no tax increase millage level like we've promised the citizens of Ponca City. We need to maintain that level because we don't want to increase taxes. So depending on the years that you sell will also depend on the bond limits. I think there's, as a round number, around 27 million if you do a 3-year, and somewhere around 35, I think, for a 5-year. If you add it all up, that's just estimates. But when you take it out that long, you can actually get some money in there. Length of time you sell your bonds determines that amount of money. It does take a village to do this. Everybody's involved. Your priorities, that'd be your committee and your board of education as well as your staff. Estimates and design is your architect and your district staff. Well, the resolution election, of course, is you and our community. Then we've got to develop these projects. The construction manager and our resources, which is our financial advisor, will help us in that respect. And then the bond sale. You've got to start construction. You've got to start purchasing. So it takes a lot to get it done, and we've got to start that process right now. Any questions?
Yes,
A whole
sir.
bunch at one time.
Are you planning on forming another committee to reprioritize or to relook at the priorities that were done in 2010 and subsequently reviewed? Or are you just going to use staff people to take a look at those?
Well, we haven't really talked about it. My thought was that we'd just use staff people because there's still so many things left on those recommendations that we haven't done yet, and they're still in list of priorities. So we need to follow through and continue that list. But the ones that we need to add to it just makes the list grow. We can talk about that, and if you want us to,
No, I don't have a preference one way or the other. I just
Yeah.
Well, I
wondering
think, Robin, we'd like some direction from the board, I mean, obviously, you saw a list of projects that we haven't finished that we talked about last time. We've not had a conversation with anybody. You saw 2 items up there. The one item was to an indoor practice facility and a new weight room facility. We've not really had formal discussions about that, but as Brett and I were discussing, what our needs were as we travel throughout the state, in some ways it's, buyer's envy a little time. Sometimes you go out and you see what other facilities people have, and especially athletically, the people we compete against as we try to figure out what we need to do to help our kids be as competitive as possible. That's one area that kind of jumps out at you, where we've not kept up. Well, I don't know how long our current facility's been there, Brett, 20 years? Is that what we
About
put that-
15 years, I think closer to 20. Yeah,
you
it
know,
would be
we
closer.
We put that building up 20 years ago. It was probably not a whole lot different than what anybody else has, but it's dramatically different today than and I'm not talking, Jinx and Union. I'm talking Sand Springs, Sapulpa,
Sure.
Stillwater, Bixby, Bartlesville, those people, the folks that we compete against all the time. We can, obviously, at the end of the day, the board will decide what the projects are. but obviously we're looking for input from you. I mean, we're happy either way, to either put a committee together or to just stay with what we've got and move forward.
So from a timing, everything backs up from next fall if we're gonna propose a bond issue, working backwards from it.
Correct.
That's
We
correct.
have to have, used to, you could call an election anytime you wanted to. Now we have rules, since next year is not a year for a general election, we have a little bit more flexibility. I think we have 2 dates in the fall, September and October, is that right, Brett?
Yeah, you have dates to finalize your resolution,
Yeah.
and then you can have your bond issues,
Yeah.
something after that.
Actually, in next fall, we can either vote in September, October, November, December. We could vote in August, but I don't think that's a good month to vote in because you're just coming back to school. And then, I'm not sure what the dates are on 2016, but for example, if we want to have an election in October of 2015, we have to make that decision in the August board meeting. If we want to do it in September, we have to decide in July. So you have about a 2-month
Couple months.
lead out before you do that. In fact, that's right, we cannot vote in December of next year. So, and then we have some dates in the spring. We always like to give ourselves some wiggle room. I mean, sometimes you put a bond proposal out there, and even though we've had lots of success in this district, there's no guarantee they're going to pass. And so, we might put a package together, and just in case it doesn't, get the necessary 60%, we can come back and modify that, and then come back sometime in the spring with another package that hopefully would be something that the voters would approve. Because it's always hard to gauge exactly what the public wants. It's always a guesstimate. We think we always try to touch elementary schools and secondary schools. We try to touch all of our extracurricular activity programs if we can. We try to make it something that the entire community can embrace. And we have needs everywhere. It's not like we don't have needs in every field. So it's pretty easy to put a package together that touches everybody a little bit, so everybody has a reason, or all the school family has a reason to turn out and support the bond issue. So,
Brett, you mentioned potentially 47 million worth of wish list. Are you gonna come back at some point with better estimates by each of the ranked long-range plans, ballpark numbers at some point?
Absolutely. I think our first priority at this point is to figure out what those projects are going to be, and then I can put the architect and the construction
The ballpark
managers to
number.
work to get us some closer figures on those. Right now, they're just really very round numbers.
the purpose of tonight is to get
Yeah.
you guys thinking about it, that it is time to do it again. Obviously, one of the things we need to know, not tonight, but hopefully, by the first of the year is, do you want us to work off of this list? Do you want us to put a committee together again? And then the second decision after that will be, do you want to do a 3-series where we pass 3 bond issues at one time? They're 5-year bonds, and they roll every, what we are right now. Or do you want to do a 5-year series? If you do a 3-year series, obviously you're going to do fewer projects. If you do a 5-year series, you're going to have more money committed for a longer period of time, and you don't have to come back and do a bond issue for 5 more years.
I think we need to look at some of these other options that they're doing out there with the bonding, and to be able to do more things at one time for cost, because the costs are just skyrocketing. We got to start getting some bigger deals to get a.
We're
bigger
making
bunch.
less than 0.5% on our money, and
Yeah.
inflationary costs are 3 to 5%
And I
at a
think
minimum.
We need to look at some of these other things, and I think we need to look at it hard in the properties meeting, and
And we can
look
do,
at
and obviously our financial advisor will be more than happy to come up and talk to the board about what our options are as far as lease purchasing. And, when you see things like, Jinx is gonna do a $300 million bond issue, well, they're doing, I don't know how big the series is, it may be out 10 years. They're gonna borrow the money up front, gonna build on today's cost and pay with dollars that are, inflation dollars later on down the road. So, and there's a lot of that happens. It's gotten to be pretty popular in the state. There's a lot of that happens. But those, certain projects fit that, some certain projects don't. So, obviously, that's something we can look at, and we will do that. We'll look at those options.
I think there's a lot of things that they, because they worked hard on that last group of folks that got that project list going. It was some major stuff, and I know we have a few things, but I think we need to stick with that and prioritize and decide where we're gonna go. And
We don't need to reinvent the wheel totally all
No.
over again. May need to update a little bit, but
Yeah.
Okay.
it doesn't need to be totally reinvented.
I
Any
was wondering
questions?
if- Might not be a good idea for us to maybe set aside a day for the board to sit down and go over it, kind of like a little
like a work session.
little retreat or
Yeah,
something.
that's a good idea.
Where we work on it.
Yeah.
Because I like the list he's got here too. I think it's a good, great starting point. And I think we need to get a better handle on what the board wants to do.
And there was a lot of time and effort put into
Yeah, I'm sure
that.
it
You know, a lot of
Yes,
these
it was.
already have some kind of cost, but I mean, that was a few years back. Now we can get some new
Yeah.
numbers that'll kind of update those.
Yeah.
Marvin, are you thinking, maybe bring our architect in to talk to us?
That'd be a
And
good
maybe we can get,
Couldn't hurt.
I'll try to get Ron Fisher up here from McDonald's and Associates and
Yeah, we just kind of
to
do.
talk about what the options are today and how some of those different ways of financing work, you know, how does lease purchase work, how do those things?
And what kind of numbers we have for 357 or whatever. they're-
We've got the
whatever they're doing.
numbers, we've got
You
projections
got all
out for those
good
years.
numbers? Okay.
Yeah, we've got, that's where, when Brett says we can do $27 million over with a 3-year series, we've got those numbers from
Then we need to
him
look at
last
stuff
week.
that, especially with the new stuff that's being built here, we don't have those on the tax rolls yet, so that's gonna change some of our
Yeah.
numbers that we need to look at for the future down the road, what's going on in the community. See
And again, we've been very fortunate. The 22 mil levy cap that we've worked with has provided us with enough money to do things. But, you know, we could try to exceed that cap, and you know, at 22 mils, we're pretty much close to the bottom of large districts in the state of Oklahoma and the millage rate that they have to keep up with their facilities, so.
Even the small districts around here are higher than that.
Yeah. So, that's something to keep in mind. But again, we've been, I personally, I mean, I'm all for, you know, just being able to keep doing what we're doing without having a tax increase. That just makes it so much easier and gets things done. And even if it takes us longer to do some projects, you know, because the thing I think I've had to teach myself over the years is that, you know, the schools are gonna be here for a long time. And sometimes you think you have to do everything right now, but the reality is, you know, you can do something, you know, 5 years from now, and that building is still gonna be there 75, 80 years later. So you have to kind of remember that sometimes.
Any other questions for Brett? Thanks, that was pretty informative. Next on the agenda is the ACE remediation plan. I think Barbara's going to present it.
Each year, we have to review our ACE remediation. ACE stands for Achieving Classroom
Excellent.
Excellence. I knew the E word there. We receive this money based on our students that are not proficient, grades 6 through 12, on OCCT or EOI scores. And the money is provided for us to improve instruction for those students. We have lots of flexibility in how this money can be spent. So the majority of the money is spent at the high school level because they do not receive Title I funds. So the majority of this money is used at the high school level. We talked about EOI, or End of Instruction Boot Camp, earlier in the semester. The high school, that was a new venture for them. We just completed our first week of EOI testing at the high school, which went very well, by the way. And we did have several of our students pass those EOIs. Those were for second-time testers. I don't have the numbers yet on those students that attended boot camp and how they whether they passed or not, but that is something that we will look at to see how effective the boot camp was. We provide tutors for East Middle School and West Middle School after school. West has already begun that tutoring program, and East will begin theirs after Christmas. And those will conclude at the end of March. We pay for substitutes for professional development. We also pay teachers for curriculum work and technology integration trainings. This year we purchased CPS systems, which are the clickers, so students teachers can evaluate whether the student gets it. It provides immediate feedback for those teachers. Slates, which allows the teacher, it looks like an iPad, it allows the teacher to walk around the room and write on their Promethean board any place in the room, so it connects from the slate to the board, or they may pass that slate to a student and let the student work. Like we used to go to the chalkboard. Instead of us going to the chalkboard, they can use the slate, and it projects from the slate onto the Promethean board. The active expressions are, it looks like an iPod, and so the students are able to type in their answers so they can actually write a sentence if it happens to be something that requires a written response. The active views are a document camera. It allows teachers to place a book on the camera and they can project pictures. Science teachers can actually perform a dissection so that the students are able to see what the teacher wants them to see instead of them just guessing. The teacher can demonstrate and show them what they want them to be looking for. We purchased IXL Math for Pro High students. In past years, they used Cognitive Tutor. It does not work well with our system. It was Java dependent, so every time we had a Java issue, we had an issue with that program. And so the Algebra 1 teachers actually began using this at the first of the year and really were impressed with the progress that they saw with students with this program. So Algebra 2 and Geometry currently are using these programs. We purchased My Access for English for East Middle School. This is a program, students submit their writing. It will give them ideas of things that they should do to improve that writing, so it's immediate feedback for those students. The teacher actually grades the final project. This just gives kids some different ways they may write a sentence or some different words that they may use. And this is, let's see, we had this 3 years ago, and the teachers requested to have this again. They felt like it was good for the students to have that feedback. We provided professional development for our teachers with Google Docs, with Schoology, which is a new management system that our teachers are using mostly at East and West. The PLC training, which is used at all levels. Close reading, BAV, which is building academic vocabulary, and nonfiction writing. So those are all district initiatives, the close reading, BAV, and nonfiction writing at the secondary level. So we have provided additional training for staff with the ACE remediation monies. We also provide summer school for students not proficient on the EOIs. So those students that need to retake those tests are offered summer school. They are remediated for 16 days, I guess, and then we reassess them. So we have 3 testing windows for our EOIs throughout the school year. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Next on the agenda, superintendent's report. I think Dr. Pennington's going to talk to us about the National Student Clearinghouse.
At your area, you have a packet that says National Student Clearinghouse on it. And I'm not going to go through this document, but I just wanted you to see, this is a report that we get once a year from an organization that tracks student progress through college. Okay, and it's made up of universities and two-year colleges. There are some career tech schools involved, and so they report on student progress. And we've been involved in this for a long time, but the data system, the pipeline, so to speak, that traces all this just kind of gets better over time. There are still colleges that students don't belong to this, where students attend. So I think this is kind of the first page is, so I think we always want to know, so how do our kids do compared to everybody else? And if you look, it shows you that for the class of 2014, 61% of those kids enrolled in college the fall immediately after high school. Okay, so the kids who graduated last fall or last spring, that 61% of those students are enrolled in college. It's also interesting, I think, to look to see that in 09, 010, and 11 that we had a drop in that, and I think, of course, that obviously corresponds right when we had the recession, and so obviously finances play a role in whether or not kids go to college or not. The national average, it looks like, is right at 55% of students of a graduating class will attend college. It sorts it by what kind of institutions are students involved in. Are they enrolled in private schools or public schools? The third page shows you 2-year and 4-year. We're probably a little different maybe than lots of communities in that we have a significant number of our students who enroll in 2-year institutions because of Northern Oklahoma College, because of how close it is. And then the reputation they have for their kids who will finish for them and then go on and finish college in 4 years.
How
So
would the school that Adam's running, would it be considered a 2 or a 4?
it's both,
Both,
because
depends on where they enroll.
it depends on where they enroll. So anyway, you can just look through this. If you get later on, it breaks it down for the class of 2008, the class of 2009, 2010. You can see how those kids did. If you get toward the back, we have charts that show progress and charts that show how many students finished. If you get to like page 33, we'll just use that one for example. It shows you that for the class of 2011, 53 of those students were new to college that year, and then another 41% returned after leaving. And they'd gone to school, left, and they came back. You can look at 11, 12. You can see there was a group of kids that graduated. And so this is for the class of 2010. So that would have been students who maybe went to NOC and just wanted to do a 2-year program. Another 7.4 didn't enroll their first year out of school, but they came back the next year. Okay, and you had 38.9% who enrolled the first year, enrolled again the second year. 9.7 they didn't return. We don't know what happened. They no longer enrolled and didn't graduate. And then you have another group, the really dark blue, who were not in the data. So whatever they did, if they went to the military, or maybe they went to an institution, so that didn't report this data. So anyway, that's just some information. And if you get to the toward the root on page 39, it shows you where our kids go to school. And you can see that the greatest number of our students will enroll at Northern over from 2010 to today. You can see how many students have enrolled at Northern and Oklahoma State. Cali County, that kind of surprised me that Cali was third. University of Central Oklahoma 4, University of Oklahoma. We have kids in lots of institutions all across the state. We have 3 at Emporia over that time period. 2 of them have been athletes. And then Tulsa Community College has a few. We have 2 at Baylor. 2 at Cameron, and then we actually have 2 at Dana College. I'm not sure, I don't really know Dana College, but I don't even know, where is it? Nebraska, okay. So we have a couple of kids there. So anyway, that just is just some information for you to see. Obviously, we're digging through this. What does this tell us? Are there some things, we'll look to see if there's anything. And then the clearinghouse provides us richer data than this, but this is just, again, I just thought you'd be interested in seeing this. So, that's all I have.
Any questions for Dr. Pennington? Next on the agenda, item 6.1 through 3, which is tonight's agenda, the minutes of last meeting, and the consent agenda. The consent agenda is items under $10,000 contracts. There's a couple agreements with the YMCA and the Marlin Mansion for the prom this coming year. There's establishment of a contract for drug testing of both students and pre-employment for employees. And then there's also several fundraisers that the booster clubs are paid for. Does anyone have any particular questions on any of those items? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve 6.1 through 3.
Motion.
Have a motion from Don and a second from David. Any questions or comments? Call for the vote, Jan?
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.1A through L is the financial reports. These were discussed in detail at the Finance Committee. Does anyone have any particular questions on those? If not, any questions for Brenda, would ask for a motion to approve 7.1.
So moved.
Move approval.
Motion from Marvin, second from Don. Call for the vote.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye, motion carries. 7.2, consideration of and vote to approve or not approve an agreement with the YMCA for the use of the aquatic center. This is a $15,000 annual contract. That's the same price that we paid last year for the use of the YMCA for the swimming pool, primarily for the swim teams.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion from Don to approve and a second.
Second.
From Marvin. Comments or questions? Call for the vote.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.3, consideration of and vote to approve or not approve agreement with Sunbelt Staffing for healthcare provider. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one that we had a change in personnel
Right.
on a contract employee with Sunbelt, and we have to write a new contract with the new person.
Numbers are the same, just a new individual.
Continuation, it's just to continue from when one quit till the new one took over.
Move approval.
Motion from Marvin to approve and a second from
Here.
Don. Question or comments? Call for the vote.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.4, consideration of and vote to approve or not approve ACE remediation plan for the district. After Barbara's presentation, I can't imagine anybody having any question, but if you do, you better ask it quick. If not, do I have a motion to approve?
Yes.
Have a motion from Don.
Second.
Second from Dr. Kincaid. Question or comments? Too late? Call for the vote.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.5, consideration of and vote to approve or not approve change order number 2 for Woodlands Elementary remodel and addition. If I've got this one right, we were putting in bulletproof or ballistic proof glass, but we have to make a change order now because the doors need to also be bulletproof. The glass wouldn't do us much good if the frames and the doors weren't bulletproof.
It's interesting, once we've got down this path of of ballistics, the things you learn.
Yeah.
You know, we never would have, never given it any thought. And, but that's exactly, and we will make improvements at other sites as
Yeah.
we go forward with this.
Yeah, Brett actually explained to me the way some of the other places will be improved. They will basically drill holes in the top of the doors and pull a concrete-type mixture, pour it down into the door, and that will in essence make that door bulletproof. But this is to actually put in the proper doors to begin with, because this one was caught in time.
Move for approval.
Have a motion from Don to approve and a second from Dr. Kincaid. Call for the vote.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Motion carries. 7.6, consideration of and vote to approve or not approve a proposed executive session for the following purpose. Discuss the possible termination, reassignment, resignation, and employment of personnel on the attached detailed personnel report, or to discuss confidential conversation with the board's attorney concerning pending claims and litigations, to discuss the purchase appraisal of real property, and discussion of evaluation of the superintendent of schools. We do need to have an executive session, at least for the last item. Do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session?
So move.
Motion and second from Don and David. Call for the vote.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid? Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Turn back to open session. Minutes of the executive session were kept by Marvin and have been given to Jan. Item 7.9, vote to approve or not approve recommendations for termination, reassignments, resignations, and employment of personnel, which was on page 61 and 62. Do I have a motion to approve 7.9?
Yes, you do.
Motion from
Second.
Don, second from Dr. Kincaid. Call for the vote.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye. Item 8.0, anybody have any new business?
Nope.
Item 9, adjournment. Motion required for an adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Second. Move. Whatever.
Who was first?
We'll go make Don first. He didn't say anything. Aye. Call for the vote.
Second.
Marvin was second. Call for the vote.
Dr. Kincaid?
Aye.
Mr. Newsom?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mr. Clark?
Aye.
I was waiting. He knew I was going to do it. Motion carries. We are adjourned.